Hello, welcome to Fox Sports Lab AFL here with the Chief on a Thursday. Welcome, Chief. Looking fresh. Ready for this one?
Looking forward to a big weekend of games, Dicko.
All right, we're going to kick it off GMHBA Stadium. So Geelong, Melbourne, and Melbourne made the decision to leave Oliver out for one more week. That's a shame because GMHBA Stadium, he's averaged 37 disposals in his last 4 games, so he would have been handy. Dangerfield's out as well. But Geelong, they need to respond to last week, and then Melbourne coming off 10 days. So I'm just going to throw a stat at you quickly. So they're 9 out of 10 when they've had a 10-day break. So they're good off a fresh run here, Melbourne. But your initial thoughts in this game?
Just difficult to warm to the Cats without Dangerfield in the middle of the ground because their midfield has genuinely struggled. They've had all sorts of issues trying to get a competitive midfield that can service the forwards. I think that's half the reason the form of Cameron and Hawkins has dropped off a bit. They're not getting the same sort of supply, certainly not the quality of supply they were getting early in the year. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for the Cats. It's a tight one. They don't lose very often down at GMHBA Stadium, but I just think the D's might have a little bit more gain for them at the moment.
So Jeremy Cameron, I know last week you said it was inaccuracy. Now he's saying it's supply. And he only had one shot at goal last week. So he's since round 8, he's only kicked 6 goals. So he's saying it's a supply issue.
No, he's still good enough to get shots on goal. So the issues in front of goal have hurt him. But they're just not getting as much quality service from the midfield. Chris Scott knows that's their weakness, is the middle of the ground at the moment.
All right. Now, Spud's game, it's going to be an exciting one on Friday night.
Are you telling me who you're tipping?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's a very good call. I'm actually tipping Melbourne.
So am I, in a tight one.
Okay, so we agree on one. We won't be agreeing on 2. All right. Now, Spud's game, Marvel Stadium, Saints taking on Brisbane. This is a sensational game. Pre-game entertainment's probably at its premium. I'm playing in the pre-game, so I'm going to kick 6 goals.
What are you doing playing? Mate, you're half crippled with your legs.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point of standing the goal scale. I'll kick 12 without trying. So
you won't get a touch.
Right, I'll do. If I don't get a touch, I'll do next week's show without my shirt on. All right.
Gee, that'd be a thrill for all of us.
But looking at the Saints now, we'll give them a mulligan last week because that's what Ross probably called it in the wet with their game against Richmond and Brisbane. Come to Melbourne after getting smacked 2 weeks ago at the MCG. So away from home, they showed us early in the season they could get it done. But this one's a bit tougher than most people think. So have you got Brisbane coming to Melbourne to get it done, or you got the Saints at this stage?
I think Brisbane can win, but I wouldn't be too down on the Saints' loss to the Tigers last week. That was a good game, actually. And what impressed me about St Kilda was every time it looked like the Tigers were going to get on top, they'd find a way to kick a goal or 2 and get back into the game. So they didn't stop trying, which I think is a really good trait. Butler and Higgins looked very dangerous around goal. Butler's been in good form, kicking a couple each week. So he's going to be a thorn in the side of the Lions' defence. And the Brisbane Lions, wow, aren't they hot and cold away from home? At the Gabba, they look fantastic. But if they don't start winning games at the MCG, they can forget about doing anything come September.
What about Josh Dunkley? So we talk about Lachie Neale and their midfield dominance, but he's been incredible. 28 plus on average last 4 weeks in particular. So is he the new barometer through there as opposed to Lachie Neale?
Well, he's just an inside grunt, isn't he? He works hard. You're not going to sit there and say he's a beautiful kick of the footy or he uses it particularly well, but he does win possession and he helps them gain territory, and that's important for Brisbane.
All right. Now, who are you tipping in this one, Saints or Brisbane?
It's a tough one. I'm going to go Brisbane.
Good, because I'm going the Saints. All right. We disagree on that. Sydney hosting West Coast. Now, not a great stat for West Coast. They've only beaten Sydney once in the last 11 games, so since 1999. So they're going there with, once again, an undermanned. I'm sick of saying undermanned. They've just got no players at the moment. But Sydney, though, based on what they're doing at the moment, they don't give you a hell of a lot of confidence, but we could probably skim through this one pretty quick. Are you going with Sydney?
Yes, I'm going with Sydney. I don't know who would tip West Coast at the moment. Not even the most ardent West Coast supporter would give them a hope in a game the way they're playing at the moment.
Well, I'm the same. I'll go with Sydney. So we'll move on to Fremantle and the Bombers. This is an interesting one because Fremantle, I reckon they're up against it. So in the last 4 weeks, they're the worst contested team in the competition, whereas the previous 4 weeks, So like from 6 through to 10, they were probably number 1. So they've just dropped off on their inside game. Their outside game's not there at the moment. And then you've got Essendon, who are flying at the moment. So do you see an upset here with the Bombers? And I say upset because it's so hard to win over there in Perth.
Yeah, it is. I'm actually surprised the Dockers are favourites, given how deplorable they were last week. They have copped plenty. They deserve to cop plenty because they were just almost uncompetitive last week. It was just a hideous performance. So I expect them to bounce back. Bombers have got leg speed, which will trouble Freo. And they're trying to consolidate their spot in the top 6. So look for the Bombers to be full of running, to be pretty keen to stamp their authority on the game early. I don't know why, but I'm giving Freo one last chance at home. This is to salvage their season. If they can get it done at home, they're still alive. I think they can.
Okay, just so you know, Essendon have won 5 of the last 6 against Fremantle. So I'm tipping Essendon to win this one. So you want to touch on Jai Amos. So multiple goals in his last 6 weeks. So he is flying at the moment, but he's been literally a one-trick pony in a way for Fremantle because 80% of the time they go inside 50, they're kicking it to Jai Amos. So is that an easy ploy for defence in terms of Essendon in this one?
Well, perhaps it should be, but I just think he presents so well. He's your old-fashioned forward that just always leads into the vision, puts himself in the right spots, reads the game well. I like the way he plays. He's a good, strong mark. Doesn't look overly big. He's tall, but he's not bulky. But he uses his body well, and I think he's a really good shot for goal. So I think they've got something to build around as far as Freo's forward line goes in the next 10 years.
All right, you're Freo. I'm Essendon. Collingwood, Adelaide, I reckon this is one of the matches of the round. So Collingwood, we know a little bit of flu hit them in their last game before the bye, but they're coming off a bye now. So looking in time on period, so we know how good they are at finishing off quarters. They're 120 points in terms of differential there for their opposition. So they just put you to sleep in time on. Adelaide, though, coming to the MCG, hasn't been great for them. Is Collingwood just going to walk straight over the top?
Well, I don't think anyone's walking straight over the top of Adelaide the way they're playing, but they're not getting the same results away as they are at the Adelaide Oval. So, it's a big opportunity for them to come to the MCG and really make a statement because I think they're a really good team come September to maybe make a mark in the finals, but they're going to have to start winning some of these big games. And I don't think it's going to be easy taking on Collingwood, who lost last time out, won't be looking to lose 2 in a row. Big game, tipping Collingwood at home.
All right, so quickly on that, Ben Key's gone into the midfield, so averaging 27. So he's had a huge influence and hitting the scoreboard as well. He's normally tagging in a way, so going to and then obviously playing an offensive role off. Who would he go to in the Collingwood midfield?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'd be putting him on Nick Dacos.
Okay.
I think he's perfectly matched. Now, Dacos isn't necessarily playing full-time mid, and we saw Keys a number of times earlier in the season playing that forward role where he does do a job and he manages to bob up and kick a couple of goals as well as keeping someone quiet. So, personally, I'd be sending him to Nick Dacos. And
just finally on that one too, Brody Myercheck, 32 goals so far. Hasn't had a result like that after round 14 in any of his seasons. So is he one of the surprise packets for you in the forwards?
It's not a surprise packet. I just love the way he works hard every week. That's what he does. He mightn't come with the fanfare that some of the other forwards in the competition do, but he just presents, he works up, he works back, he works defensively, he does it all, he competes hard. I like him as a player.
All right, I'm going Collingwood. You Collingwood?
Collingwood.
All right, now finishing on what I think is going to be the upset of the round. So Gold Coast hosting Hawthorn. So we know what Gold Coast dished up last week. We did the game. We saw it with our own eyes. So there wasn't any illusions in that. And then Hawthorn coming off the bye. So the dangerous Hawthorn team. So we saw what they did to Brisbane at the MCG before their bye. I'm tipping Hawthorn in this one based on they're just going to take it on and try and pull the Gold Coast apart. So are you sticking with me or are you going against me on this one?
Oh, they'll certainly take the game on. I like the way they're playing. They've got some good run and carry. Their forward handball works really, really well. Love what John Newcomb's doing in the middle of the ground. I think he's a star player. He just gives you the same week in, week out. However, Dicko, I just think no Sicily, no Hawthorn. So Gold Coast, again, a bit like Freo. They were so putrid last week. If they don't bounce back, fair dinkum, if I was Stuart G, I'd be lining them up with the firing squad the way they performed last week, and I'm giving them one last chance at home to show us the real Gold Coast.
Yeah, that's why you've never coached. You just hose your players down there, line them all up. All right, Chief. Appreciate you on that one. You're going Gold Coast. I'm going the Hawks. We'll see you on Monday for our review. Thanks for tuning in. Fox Sports Lab AFL.
Look forward to it.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.